started there. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so in terms of stress management, you know, there are defining moments in life, and when they occur,
Sorry,
life
Kitty,
is defined
sorry,
by
Kitty.
them.
We can't see your face, darling.
Sorry. Yep,
We can't see your face.
Yep, okay. Here we are. So basically what I like to share is that, you know, life was always filled with different defining moments. And for me personally, you know, when my father's got cancer, you know, it was one of my defining moments. That day when he passed away, that fateful day forever changed my life. And after his death, you know, I was at the time, you know, in shock and drowning in grief and despair. And I'm sure many of you would have experienced similar emotions and, you know, one way or the other, whether it's work-related stress or other issues, we all must have suffered different types of stress and shock in our lives as well. And, you know, of course, you know, with job and business and relationship and different things, thankfully, you know, there are ways that we can do to help us manage our stress. So that's why we're actually wanting to share with you today how to manage stress. So when you look at this slide, you know, we actually talked about the fact that in this day and age, you know, many individuals are feeling more stressed than ever. Whether we don't actually sleep enough or different types of reason, you know, most people blamed, you know, different circumstances or the fact that, you know, we're really trying to juggle many things and work pressure for causing them to feel stressed. When we, you know, hear the word stress, often we immediately think negative, right? But without stress, many good things wouldn't happen either. So stress is a type of pressure that elicits a response. And that could be, you know, physical pressure, mental pressure, or even more of an environmental pressure, as I mentioned. And some stresses are actually good for us because, you know, they promote survival. They push us to adapt to a changing situation, and they give us some what we call grit. And that is something that I've had to really, you know, think through in terms of my own journey. It can really help many people, as I've seen, promote physical or mental toughness. And so, you know, to go even further, it can help you get stronger so you can face future obstacles. Considering this, the innate fight or flight response can operate largely outside of consciousness as well. So let's go through what is stress. So there are different, you know, definitions of stress, of course. First of all, stress is the reaction that we typically have to excessive pressures or other types of demand placed upon them. So let's say if you are going through certain types of pressures that are excessive, more than you can handle, then, you know, it will happen when they worry that, you know, you can't cope. So stress is the wear and tear of our minds and bodies experience as we attempt to cope with our continually changing environment. So here it talks about stress occurs when the pressure is greater than the resource. So we all have our innate resources, you know, that will help us handle certain type of pressure and stress. But if the stress is way too much to the point that our resource, you know, is not able to handle, then it actually happens. So as you can see, it could be to do with your career, your business, your workplace, or debt, financial, relationship, divorce, confusion, illness, you know, or death of loved ones, etc., etc. Coping with difficulties and even frustrations in different areas of life can cause a lot of stress. And I'm sure that many of us have been through that. And also a person's perception that what they're facing exceeds their adaptive capacity and that their well-being is threatened. Stress throws, the whole body out of balance, both with itself and with its environment. And it's really something that many people are not aware of. And I know that that is something that I need to be constantly being aware of for myself, because, I can actually get through a lot of motion without knowing that stress is actually way too much. And I can get to a point where I have been through excessive pressure and stress and get sick as well. So now the thing though is that stress is not necessarily negative. There are two different types of stress. The negative type of stress is called distress, but then there's also the positive stress, and that is called eustress. All right, so the distress is the negative stress that is potentially overwhelming and perhaps out of control. And experiencing distress for a lengthy period of time is called chronic stress and can result in serious physical disorders like cardiovascular decline, endocrine concerns, and obesity, and even like sleep issues as well. And so basically at times we may not even be aware of it, but when you have these kind of symptoms, then you will be starting to realize that, wow, there is actually something negative that is happening to my body and there are symptoms coming up. However, on the other hand, there's like eustress, which is a positive types of stress that keeps us excited about life. This kind of positive stress gives us a feeling of fulfillment, vitality, happiness, and joy in our everyday lives, even though we feel, oh, wow, there is actually some kind of like, adrenaline, so to speak. But without this kind of stress, our lives will start to feel meaningless and we may start to feel depressed. So in fact, there are actually positive types of stress that can be really good to our lives. However, when we think about stressors, there are different types of contributing factors that can actually cause us to realize that, we are not going through the positive type, but the negative type. If you're starting to feel that you've got a lot of headaches, or migraines or digestive symptoms, gut issues or skin complaints, insomnia, as I mentioned, sleep has been a problem for a lot of us, then it could be a stressor that is, conditioning into our negative stress and even ulcers in our body. So when you start to see some of these symptoms, which can be contributing factor for our stress, then you need to be starting to be aware. Or excessive, prolonged, and unraveled negative stress can have a harmful effect on mental, physical, and spiritual health. Stress can also have a positive effect, spurring motivation and awareness. So if you realize that while you're actually doing certain things, you keep on having a lot of motivation and awareness and doing things with, a gutsy and happiness, then that's fine, because then you will be able to cope with the challenging situations. But when the stress gets to the better of you, and it provides you with that kind of negative symptoms, then you need to be aware. Like as I mentioned in the beginning, for the last 5 months, I've got 5 of my dear friends and business partners who've passed away. And I started, having some kind of minor symptoms that I need to be aware of. And so now I'm just being open and even, keeping myself accountable by sharing this with you guys, that perhaps I am going through some type of stresses that I need to be looking after myself. I've written a book called Juggling Health and Wealth. In that book, one of the chapters is about oxygen mask. Oxygen mask means that we need to actually put our own oxygen mask on before assisting others. And I realized that, for us women in particular, many of us actually give a lot to the people around us. Say, for example, even as a business owner, I would give a lot to my clients, to my customers, to my business partners, to my potential business partner, even to a point that maybe I even don't look after myself. And I catch myself doing that at times. And when that happens, then I need to be then, take a deep breath and know that, well, this is not a good sign. But then on the other hand, if I see that, well, I'm actually really motivated and I'm feeling inspired, spurred, and that is the positive kind of effect, then these kind of stresses are good for me. So what I'd like you to know from this particular slide is that stresses can be positive and negative. And when you realize that you've got them, you need to be aware whether it's actually coming from a positive or negative manner, and you need to then balance it. All right, well, as I mentioned, there are, the acute type as well as the chronic type of stress. Acute stress, response is critical for biosurvival. And what that means is that it is really hardwired, to save and protect the organism, like us as human beings. And it is virtually the same in all animals, in fact, mammals, right? The classic fight or flight response. So if you feel that, there is some kind of like acute response coming up for you, then it will be short term. It is what we call the Mother Nature had in mind, as the basis for the biochemical response. It's only a very short period of time. However, when it comes to the chronic stress, then it is really something not good for our ongoing health, because it is caused by non-immediate biosurvival stimuli. Like the biochemical response is the same. There's only one physiological stress response. And because our body really, was not designed to handle this kind of chronic stress or pressure, which is on an ongoing long-term basis, our health can be in jeopardy. So it's very important that we don't get into this kind of chronic stress. As you can see up the top there, it will actually affect our brain, our digestion, our weight, our heart, sleep, and skin as well. So all these types of long-term chronic stress, can actually cause very, very detrimental effect for our lifespan as well. So that's why when it comes to emotional indicators of stress, when you realize these things are starting to happen, then be aware. If you're starting to feel easily agitated, frustrated, moody, tearful, and feeling like you're going down the rabbit hole, etc., or overwhelmed, or you can't really relax and, feeling like you're sort of, feeling sort of negative and, all the time, including some, depressive symptoms like, lower self-esteem, feeling lonely, worthless, helpless, all that kind of thing, and you crave for unhealthy food, whether it's salty, whether it's sweet, fatty foods, then it's already the beginning of emotional indicators that you are going through some kind of negative stresses. So be aware. And the other side of cognitive indicators of stress, which is coming from your mind and your head, is the constant worrying. So let's say if you are actually, have a loved one that is not been well, and you're constant worried about, their life and death and stuff like that, then, or worrying about your finances or your own health or someone else's health or your relationship situation, then that is actually an indicator of cognitive, your brain is actually playing trick. Or you don't want to care for yourself, you have racing thoughts, your mental alertness becomes low, or you forget things, disorientated, difficulty concentrating, you can't focus when you're reading, you procrastinate, etc., etc., then this would be something to be aware of. So these are the things that you need to really be looking for when you're starting to feel that pressure coming on you. Okay, the third part of stress is physical indicators. These are the actual bodily sensations when you may or may not even know that it comes from the fact that it's because of your stress. Because a lot of times when we have physical indicators or bodily symptoms, we may think that is actually some type of physical symptoms of illness. However, it could also be connected to your stress. When you feel like you're having low energy, you've got head discomfort, whether it's migraines or like, headaches, digestive challenges, weight gain without particular reason, or decreased immunity, you couldn't sleep, or your sleep qualities has, been affected, lack of sexual desire and strife or nervousness, and you feel more sensitive to things than normally, then this is also, the type of physical symptoms or indicators of stress. So what you do not need to do during stress, very important for us to be aware, and that is when you're going through stress, make sure that, you don't just, keep on doing these things that are not necessarily helpful for you, whether it's reproduce, digest, think, heal, make new bones, all these things. In fact, you cannot do while you are going through stress, and you will become forgetful. You can't think clearly, and, your muscle will become even reduced, in your muscle mass, etc. So it's very, very unhealthy. Now, when it comes to cortisol, which is our stress hormone, is a very vital hormone that we all need. It is secreted in higher amounts during stress. So when we are actually feeling stressed, then cortisol will become higher and higher. And when your body is over making cortisol, which is the stress hormone, then it may not be able to make a significant amount of the related hormones, other hormones that will be important for our health. So that's why, as a nutritionist, I always, talk to my clients and my TLS students and customers, the importance of food in helping us cope with stress. So on the left-hand side are the foods that we should try to avoid and even eliminate when you're particularly going through stress, and that is refined sugar, salt, processed food, junk food, alcohol, and coffee. So when you're going through stress, try to eliminate this. And if you are going through stress, then try to have as much as what you see on the right-hand side, and that is dark green vegetables, avocado, berries, tomatoes, nuts, and plant protein. Okay, so when it comes to nutritional support, is very, very important, for us to think about adaptogens, because they are the kind of herbs that work synergistically to reduce the impact of stress. So if you have a normalizing effect of the body, so then we won't be having that imbalance in our normal health. In order for us to restore our balance to the body, we do need to have nutritional support, and hence it's very, very important for us to think about, the neurotransmitters as well as the type of nutritional stress support that in a bit later, Noreen will be sharing with us. So chemical messengers in the brain is what we call the neurotransmitters. Not drugs, but natural substances. So we all have, the different types of natural substances. However, we also need to have them, in our foods and in our supplements. So when we're able to actually have them, we can then support, our stress-related issues. And so brain activity is carried out by the release of neurotransmitters and also mental activities related to the supply of it. So when we need, the additional support when we're going through extreme pressure or excessive pressure, then we know that we would have difficulty sleeping, we would have mental, emotional distress, carb cravings, poor digestion, and mental confusion. So when you're starting to have all these different types of symptoms, then it's time for you to have the additional support. And of course, all these different, hormonal support will also help you. And hence, some of our supplements would have this in place for you, including, stress support like adaptogens are part of the answer, where some of our products would have this type of herbs that are available to actually help us, with the stress hormones. Now, stress management strategies. Here are some of the important things that I would like to encourage, you guys to think about. And that is, number one, take a break from the stressor. So whatever that you're going through, certain stress, then try and take a break from it. Keep active and exercise. smile and laugh. Try and find things that make you happy, and also get social support. Take time out to meditate, to breathe deeply, or to pray, so that you can actually calm yourself. And if you need to say no to certain things, then do. And make time for fun and relaxation, because when we actually have fun, when we are happy, then we will actually produce happy hormones that will help us as well. And also drink enough water to help manage cortisol levels. As we mentioned, cortisol is actually the stress hormone. The more water that we drink, the more that we can actually manage that level. And it's very important for us to eat healthily. Low glycemic impact eating actually makes sense to help us, reduce our stress level as well. And so now I'd like to pass the time for Noreen to share about our different ways to have nutritional stress support in terms of the supplements. Thank you, Noreen.
Thank you very much, Kitty. Sorry, the video is switched off, so you can't see my face. Kitty, I don't know if you can correct that or not.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So if you can just share screen, let me have a look. Oh, I don't know why that is. I can't seem to change.
Yeah, that doesn't matter, and that's fine. Let's just go to share screen. Share screen. Okay. Slide from the beginning.
Yep, I can see your screen now. Thank you, Noreen.
Fantastic. So welcome everybody, and I'm delighted you're all on here tonight to learn a little bit about how we can manage stress. And I have to say, it is one of the major causes of morbidity in modern living, because even though our lives have been made more simple by mechanisms and mechanics and, dishwashers and washing machines and so forth, but we're living a very stressful life. We're sitting at the computer, we have deadlines, you've got targets, stressful jobs, and oftentimes even, it's unavoidable stress for a lot of us. And certainly personally, I know the job I do outside of what I'm doing with nutrition is exceptionally stressful, and I try my very best to manage that, but it's almost it's almost a losing battle, as it were. So I really do advocate you all to really think about how you deal with your daily living, and try and incorporate little bits of self-care in every single day. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I'm a registered nurse, a registered midwife. I've been in health for over nearly 40 years, or over 40 years, although I don't like to admit that. But anyway, but I'm really passionate about nutrition. I'm passionate about helping others achieve their best health. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through 4 different supplements that I take some of, and I would highly recommend if you are feeling that you are suffering from stress and are finding it hard to deal with. My first favorite is the Advanced B complex. So the B vitamins are an essential dietary intake, and you can't make them, you've got to take them. So you got to ingest them each day. There's thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, biotin, folic acid, cobalamin. You can read all about them, but they're really, really important for all sorts of bodily functions. They help to increase energy. They actually can affect our mood. So if we're low on B vitamins, we can be cranky, irritable, and maybe our cognitive ability can be a little bit interrupted. It's very important if you're a vegetarian to take B vitamins, because again, some of our Bs are got from meat. It also promotes healthy aging and also healthy cardiovascular health. Like some of the Bs are important for the manufacture of red blood cells. I'm just going to play you a very quick video now that talks about our isotonic B vitamins.
Isotonic's activated B complex provides energy and boosts metabolism. The activated forms of select B vitamins mean that they are immediately ready for use by the body, helping to break down carbohydrates, fats, and proteins into energy to power our body. B vitamins also support immune health, red blood cell formation, decrease stress, and improve mood, along with promoting normal cognitive performance and nerve function. B vitamins are water-soluble and therefore must be replenished daily. They are naturally depleted by lifestyle factors including alcohol consumption, certain prescription medications, stress, and many processed foods. Take control of your health by giving the best to your body. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you can support your body with the nutrition it needs for optimal health. Don't wait. Start today.
The next slide isn't coming up. Okay, here we go. So let's go back there. Okay, sorry, good. All right, so the isotonic B complex and all our isotonic range, for those who haven't heard of isotonics, it's a powder formation, and when mixed with a particular amount of water, the compound becomes isotonic, which means that it can be absorbed into your circulatory system very quickly within about 10 minutes, because it doesn't need to be metabolized in the stomach. The stomach recognizes it's an isotonic form by these little receptors, and it's ejected into your upper intestine very quickly, and it gets to point of activity very, very quickly. So it's a very highly bioavailable product. The B complex is a mixture, as I said, of 8 different vitamins which have intracellular ability. Sorry, not sure what happened. Okay. And as I said, it's also isotonic capable. So health experts estimate that 1 in 5 people are deficient in B vitamins. So I just mentioned 2 here. So vitamin B12, this is stored in the liver, and it's called upon when necessary. It's actually got from meat. Folic acid is also very important. It's got from vegetables and fruit, like dark leafy vegetables, oranges, brewer's yeast, and it plays a key role in supporting the absorption of B12. Folic acid is also important in pregnancy. So for those people who are planning a pregnancy, we would advocate that they use folic acid for about 12 weeks before the pregnancy and on up to 12 weeks into the pregnancy. And the reason for that is it is important for neural tube development. Very low folic acid levels can lead to neural tube defects in little babies. So that is not a very good thing. The next vitamin mineral I would like to talk to you about is magnesium. So magnesium is the 4th most abundant mineral in the body, and it's necessary for many of our neurochemical interactions or reactions. It's essential in all cells, and it contributes to 300 enzyme productions. It interacts with ATP, DNA, and RNA. Now, they're short words for the kind of metabolic reaction that actually occurs in the mitochondria of a cell. So a bit scientific, but I just want to highlight that it's a very important mineral. Now, Australia is very deficient in magnesium. So many Australians have low magnesium levels because of their diet, and we don't have the soil here in Australia is low in magnesium because it hasn't been a glaciated country like in Europe and North America. In your body, 60% of your magnesium is stored in your bones, 39% is in intracellular situation, and 1% is extracellular. Now, there are some reports that it helps in migraine relief. It can assist in the maintenance of normal blood pressure and normal muscle function because it helps muscle relaxation. Okay, so even in your cardiovascular system, all your vessels, there's a very narrow little muscle layer within your veins and your arteries. So if you're deficient in magnesium, your cardiovascular system may not relax like it should do. So a very contracted cardiovascular system can lead to high blood pressure. It's a very good tool for athletes who are people who work out a lot, because it will help with muscle repair and muscle relaxation after intense exercise. It produces healthy energy levels, obviously helps for strong bones, hormone balance, and cardiovascular and neurological system. Because again, magnesium is again involved in being a neurotransmitter. So it's one of the minerals that is, so catecholamine is a neurotransmitter, and magnesium lends itself to the production of catecholamine. Now, magnesium, like calcium, can't be consumed. You must take it in your diet. So again, your green leafy vegetables, your fish, your meat, pumpkin seeds, potatoes, spinach, baked beans, these are all high in magnesium. So you can't go wrong if you eat plenty of green vegetables, you can note. So the daily intake, the UK recommends that men take 300 milligrams a day and women 270, whereas the US has a slightly higher recommendation. Now that could be because their dietary intake or their soil is maybe more depleted there than in the UK, but they're roughly around the same. Now our product, magnesium, isotonics magnesium, has 200 milligrams of magnesium, and we have magnesium citrate and magnesium glycinate. Now I draw that to your attention because these are highly bioavailable sources of magnesium. Now the next product I'd like to draw your attention to is what we call ACTS. Now this is one of our products in our transition lifestyle suite of products. So for those of you who haven't heard of Transitions Lifestyle, it's a weight management program that's science-based and has 4 main pillars of, like, for education, a low glycemic index, eating, exercise, and supplementation. And this is one of the supplements we recommend. So going back to what Kitty said about cortisol, when we're under constant stress, so we remember Kitty said some cortisol is good, so that fight and flight response, we see, something happen and we need to respond quickly. And then the episode passes and our cortisol goes back to normal level. That's what our adrenal glands are supposed to do, spit out cortisol in those episodes of needing a quick response. But what's happening in modern living is where most of us are in a heightened state most of the time. So you look at most of that are at work, right? You have this constant pressure, the next job, the next job, the next job. You're never finished. There's another deadline. Your boss tells you to do something else. It's just this constant, never-ending list of things to do, and pressure. So as a consequence of that, your cortisol may be spinning off all of the time. And eventually it will lead to adrenal fatigue, where you're just going to feel exhausted. That belly fat that goes on around the middle, that's a typical sign of adrenal fatigue. Now, the adrenal gland is a very interesting gland because it's responsible for our sex hormones, our cortisol levels, and our glucocortisol, which is the hormone that also contributes to the metabolism of glucose. So you can see why all this is connected to weight gain. So stress, you'll notice, can be contributed to weight gain. Now with cortisol as well, it has got a link to the thyroid gland, because what happens is high cortisol levels cause a decrease in the response to the thyroid hormone receptors. So again, you'll notice a lot of people under constant stress over a prolonged period of time may finally also have their thyroid gland involved in the stress response. Okay. With this formulation, it contains holy basil and a beautiful adaptogen called ashwagandha. So these two herbs help to stabilize mood, help to minimize the stress response, and elevate dopamine and serotonin, which are what we call our happy hormones. So this is a very, very useful product. Now, Kitty also mentioned adaptogens. So for those of you who haven't heard of what an adaptogen is, it's basically like a herbal medicine with properties that stabilize psychological processes and enhance overall health. Now, this contains some very effective adaptogens that can support stress management. So the first one is L-theanine, which is an amino acid found in green tea. That's a very lovely thing to take, particularly in the evening or later in the day when you're trying to relax. So it has anti-anxiety properties, and it increases GABA dopamine and serotonin. So it's a very good. Ashwagandha as well helps manage stress, and it reduces cortisol. Serbian ginseng, this is an adaptogen which helps the body deal with stress, and it supports the adrenal gland. It helps mental acuity, and physical endurance. Now you will notice, like, you know, when people are very, very stressed, mentally they get totally overwhelmed and their cognition can also be affected. I must say, I feel that myself sometimes at work. There's so many things, one thing after the other. And sometimes I think, did I just think that? Did it really happen? Or you just can't remember all the details because there's just so much to think about. The next adaptogen is rhodolia, which then this is also reduces anxiety and depression. So you'll see they have a great effect on our mental state. Passion fruit, this also balances our cognitive impairment. And bacopa, which is an analgesic, an antioxidant, and also an anti-anxiety herb. This is a picture of what some of those herbs look like, and they're really, really beautiful. So you know, if you read a lot about ancient medicine, like in the Chinese culture, the Egyptian culture, the Indian culture, a lot of these herbs are used in traditional medicine. So this is worth paying attention to. So basically, think about where you're at in your life with regard to stress, because it is honestly, stress is almost worse than smoking these days because there's so much of it there. We almost can't get away from the level of stress we're living under. Think about how you're managing your stress and seriously consider some, if not all of these products to help you get to a better state in terms of your mental health with stress, because long-term stress certainly causes serious cardiovascular issues, as well as it can lead to the start of cancer and things like that. So I would only wish you all to have your better health. So I mean, the time is now. Don't wait for the future to think about managing your health. Think about it now. For those who invited you on to the talk tonight, have a chat with that person and see if they can help you and direct you in the right direction. As I said, being a registered nurse, I'm very happy to talk through any health concerns that anybody has. So I'll stop sharing now.
Great, thank you, Noreen, and thanks everyone for being on tonight. And I hope that we can all, learn how to actually, manage our stress, and that is something that we can't avoid, but we can learn to cope with it. So until next time, take care, everybody. Bye for now.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
You, Noreen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.